So businesses are facing different struggles. Some of them are still open. Some of them reduce operations. Some of them had to close because of the declared emergency that we are facing now. But that's gonna change in the next couple of weeks, the next month, and businesses will have to be prepared for that. And when I say prepare for that is that's why I wanted to introduce you today to this program from the federal government. Before I start, just want to say that this presentation is for general guidance only. I have to say it. That's my professional duty. When I provide legal information, please don't consider that one as legal advice, because each workplace, each business will be different, will have different circumstances, and you may cause more harm than fixing problems if you go by legal information only. So I encourage you to contact a lawyer if you have more questions about this to get legal advice. So this is the question that I brought for you today. So you're resuming business at some point. You have health and safety duties, and those health and safety duties include to prevent the spread of the virus. But you also have probably lower revenues. So can you reduce the workforce operation costs without exposing your business to legal liability like constructive dismissals or wrongful dismissal lawsuits? And I want you to picture in your minds your favorite local restaurant. Your favorite local restaurant, a small business, probably ran by its owner, has to keep physical distancing between the tables and between patrons, right? You've seen this around the world now, that you have tables spread around, you have less people in because you need to cover more space, separating tables. And that means that you don't have to have all the employees that you have before in that restaurant, right? But also you don't want to lay off these employees because they may be good. The business may pick up at some point later. So we're going to talk about one legal tool to adjust your operation costs during COVID-19 by reducing the amount of hours of your workers. And at the same time, by doing this within the framework that the government allows, you will be able to prevent constructive dismissal claims. So we'll talk about business realities, consequences of temporary layoff, and using service, the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, AKA $2,000 every 4 weeks for those who qualify. And I'm going to mention what's not good about using these combination in the time ahead. We're going to talk about the work sharing program, which is the start of the day today. And we're going to talk about its requirements, goals, and considerations, and some steps for you to consider moving forward. 3 business realities. The provinces and territories, they had the power to order business to close because of the declared emergency. And it was more important, the public health issue, than the business continuing over time. And they know that the business are going to continue over time, but they needed to control first the public health concern. So they gave themselves, provinces, power to close businesses, but they left a few businesses, and you know this, open, because those mean food, health, very important for our survival. So these businesses continue to do business as usual with the layer of having to control the spread of the virus. There are a couple of companies that are not controlling the spread of the virus well. Even though they're open, they had to close because there was spread of the virus in their warehouses. But the government allowed this business to remain open. Then there are other businesses not related to supply chain or related to health and other sectors that the government said, you need to close shop because I need to control the virus. And that's what a big group of employers did. And they sent everybody home. And you have another, and they closed shop. And you have another group that was able to continue to operate online, like you're doing, Dave and Eddie. You are operating. You're bringing your business that was at some point in person to online delivery of your services. The government said, you know what? If you're in the list of essential business or not, if you operate through digital means remotely, that's fine. Continue working. So you have some businesses in that sense. So they needed to probably reduce the um, uh, number of employees because they didn't need all the employees that they had before, and continue operating that way. So those businesses who closed, they sent everybody home with whether using temporary layoffs or terminating without cause the employees. That allowed the employees to apply for the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, $2,000 every 4 weeks. The thing with this approach is that it makes it easier for other employers to poach those employees and bring them to their business. All right. So that's one thing that happens with layoff and serve. Another consequence is that the employees free to look for and accept new jobs. I mean, employees are free to look for other jobs, but it will be more difficult to accept a new job if they're still in the payroll. Um, if these things happen and the employee finds another job, what will happen is that your business is going to be scrapping the market, the workplace market, to retain whatever you can find out there, because the businesses who acted fast or kept the workers in their payroll would not be having to go out and scrap the market to hire whatever you can find. These will increase the temporary layoffs and serve. That combination increases the hiring and retention costs, and it exposes you to lawsuits. There is um, a theory, a legal theory that I'm not going to go into that amazing, spectacular topic for me, but boring for everybody else. The temporary layoffs, there are uh, circumstances where temporary layoffs may be illegal. And if you didn't do it properly, then you're exposed to a wrongful termination lawsuit. So that's something that a lot of business may be exposed to right now. But what's the work sharing program? This legal tool to adjust your operation costs. The purpose of this program is because your business activities reduce. Remember the local restaurant that has fewer patrons because of they need to spread the tables in the space and keep the physical distancing. Uh, you have less business in an amount of time, and and that means that you're not going to have as much revenue as you did before. Uh, that reduction is beyond the control of the local restaurant. And the employees may want to say, well, I don't want to be laid off. I don't want to be terminated without cause. I don't want to apply for SERB. I want to return to work. And I agree that my hours of work are shared among all of us. So if you have 10 employees with 40 hours of work, that's 400 hours of 40 hours per week of work, and that's 400 hours a week. And you don't have 400 hours a week as business activities. Let's say that you have half of it, then you have 200 hours of work, and you will share those 200 hours of work equally among all the employees. That way you keep the employee in the payroll. That way the employee gonna be laid off. You're gonna maintain the employment relationship with your employees. And what's beneficial for the employees that they're able to apply to employment insurance. So whatever they're not making because they reduce the hours, the employee, they're going to be top up to a certain extent by employment insurance. So there is benefit for the government because they don't have as many applications for layoff and temporary or termination without cause. It's good for the employee because they're going to keep their relationship, they're going to keep their skills updated, um, and they're going to get pretty much most of the income they had before. And the employer also, it's going to keep running the business and it's going to recover over time, specifically because of COVID-19 when things go back to certain normality. So this is what the work sharing program is. Evidently, there are some requirements, and we will go through some questions after the presentation. But some of the goals is that the business is able to adjust. The business is able to adjust to the circumstances. So reduction of operations, less revenue. I don't have to keep all my employees, but how am I going to do that? Am I going to send them home, or is it better to keep them all with sharing hours? The qualified employee will access to employment insurance, will stay in the payroll. It's more difficult for the employee now to just go to the competition, and they will have to give you notice, and it's likely that they will return to normal working hours. And it will control, this is very important, it will control the exposure to layoffs liability. So it will control that employees will not be able to go and say, well, you know what, you laid me off and now I have to sue you because it was a constructive dismissal. We're not going to go to constructive dismissal, but that's one risk that happens. How long this program lasts? Before it was 38 weeks and it could be extended, but because of COVID-19, this program, its initial term is, it goes to 74 weeks, I believe. So 74 weeks of work sharing program with an agreement where the employer can adapt to COVID-19. I think that it's enough time, and probably the government later would say, if we didn't find a vaccine, which I hope that we find it soon, the government may extend those 74 weeks. There are some considerations. It's not an easy application. It's complicated, complex, not complicated, but complex. There are a lot of terms to understand, terms and conditions. There needs to be agreements with the employees. Those agreements are templates that the government have. And the application needs to be filed together. So the employer cannot go and file for everybody and when approved, the employer tells the employees, because the employees need to sign an agreement. So the application goes together with the employers and the employees' representative signature. And we call that group of people that it's involved in that agreement a work sharing unit. There are tax implications evidently for the employees. We can talk about that in another time. And not every business qualifies. So one of the things that you need to be looking for in the next few days is how much activity I dropped from previous months and last year. So what they're looking for is something in between 10% and 60%. 10% is half day, 60% is 3 days. So reduction of the workforce from half a day to 3 days, so that you could share about 40% of the work among all the employees. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the next steps, and I invite you to, if you're considering this program, the work sharing program, which is a tool to control the operation costs by reducing the hours of assigned to workers. Check if your business qualify, check whether your employees agree, just have a quick conversation. I'm thinking about this program, what do you think? And prepare and file the application package. So as a gift to our friends from OneStop Classroom, I talked to Eddie and Dave that I wanted to share with you 30 minutes courtesy exploratory call to see if your businesses would qualify for this plan. And I'll be happy to talk with each one of them.
And from that standpoint, I want to point out that our next person on the schedule is on Friday. It's real estate economics. That's the topic, and Max Ma is the speaker. We will send out the invitation right after this meeting. And Max has joined the MPAC in 2015, and he's a property evaluation analyst. And he's actually doing a lot of real estate engagement, looking at the market, ups and downs and whatnot. So we would encourage you to come and also encourage your friends in real estate to join us as well on Friday. So we look forward this to be a very exciting topic. And we saw some movement, and I've heard in the news that we saw some movement of kind of like the trend in the market has been going down, going steady. nobody's doing any showing of houses or property. So, this will be something that is good for our knowledge. And if you plan to move and make a purchase, what should you do at this very point of time? So on that note, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. I'd like to also thank Antonio again. So Antonio, we'll just make sure we do this for you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Eddie. And you will never know. You will never know if I had sweatpants.
Yeah. Next time we'll see. So thank you very much again. We'll talk to you everybody again on Friday. Thank you. Bye-bye.